They didn't invite me because they missed me. They invited me to control me. 6 years without a single call, not for my deployment, not for my Bronze Star, not even for Dad's funeral. And now a wedding invite slipped in with the word behave, scrawled like a warning. My sister Haley's getting married to the man I once pulled from a minefield. The same man who whispered, I owe you my life. Now he's hers. This isn't a celebration, it's a reckoning. And I didn't come to make peace. I came to make them look me in the eye. They didn't expect me to come. Honestly, I didn't either until that envelope showed up. Thick cream-colored edges embossed like something sacred. My name stared back at me from the center, printed in that clipped formal font that never quite belonged to a family. Lauren Mitchell, not Lori, not Lowe, not even Lauren, we miss you. Just that name, cold complete. And the note inside, only one word handwritten in my mother's delicate, judgment-laced script, behave. It should have made me laugh. Instead, it knocked the wind out of me like a body blow. 6 years, that's how long it had been since I'd heard from any of them. No calls after I was promoted to lieutenant general, no congratulations when I was decorated in Arlington, no seat reserved at Dad's funeral. But now, suddenly this, an invitation to my sister's wedding, to Ethan Rhodes. The same Ethan I pulled from a crater in Kandahar, the one I carried half-conscious through sniper fire and shattered steel whispering through cracked lips that he owed me everything. Now he was marrying Sienna, my sister, and my mother wanted me to behave. The base in Stuttgart was quiet that night. Even the wind seemed unsure of itself, brushing against the barracks windows like it wanted to ask permission. Inside my quarters, everything was in order just like I'd built it. Sharp corners, starched linens, silence. Simmons knocked. 2 quick raps, always precise. He walked in before I could speak. You gonna go? I didn't look up. The invitation lay on my desk like a loaded weapon. Doesn't feel like a request. He sat the chair creaking under his weight. Simmons had known me since I was a green recruit with a chip on her shoulder and a spine full of iron. He glanced at the envelope. Rhodes, he muttered. That's the one you hauled out under fire, yeah. Same one, you saved his life. And now he's marrying your sister. I finally looked at him. You think I should go? He considered this, rubbing a thumb over his jaw. Depends, he said. You going to fight a war or lay one to rest? A beat. Maybe just to watch one burn. He didn't flinch. Then go. But don't wear your medals like armor. Wear them like memory. The words stuck heavier than they should have been. I looked out the window. A fresh class of recruits was running drills under the floodlights. Their shouts still full of fire I barely remembered having. I stood, walked to the closet and unzipped the garment bag. My dress uniform was inside, perfectly pressed, untouched since Dad's funeral. The one I wasn't asked to speak at. They'd buried him with full military honors. Trumpets, salutes, all the traditions he'd bled for. No one saved me a seat. And when I approached my mother, looked through me like I was a stain. Sienna didn't even turn. I stood in the back, shoulder to shoulder with strangers, heart full of silence. That was the last time I saw any of them. Until now, I booked the flight without telling anyone. Frankfurt to Richmond, red-eye, window seat. I didn't go to be welcomed. I went to be seen. The minute I landed, Virginia greeted me like it never meant to let me go. Warm breeze, blooming dogwoods, perfectly manicured lawns. Everything smelled like springtime and denial. The car ride to Alexandria was silent. I didn't play music. I didn't need the distraction. Every street, every familiar curve was a pulse of memory I didn't want but couldn't avoid. The closer I got, the more I could hear it, the echo of who I used to be. The daughter who followed rules, the sister who dimmed her own light so Sienna could shine. When I pulled into the cul-de-sac, Mrs. Langford was watering her hydrangeas as always. She squinted toward my rental car lips, already pursed, before I stepped out. Well, I'll be. Lauren Mitchell, she said, eyes flicking over my uniform like it offended her flower bed. Yes, ma'am, I replied, shouldering my duffel. You're still in the Army. I smiled without teeth. That's right. She nodded slowly. We thought after everything you might have stepped back. Some of us don't get to, I wanted to say. Instead, I nodded politely and walked on. The house looked exactly the same, too polished, too symmetrical. like someone had vacuumed the front porch, but there was a flicker in the light fixture, one tiny thing trying to misbehave. Barbara Mitchell, my mother, opened the door in beige slacks and a blouse buttoned to the collar. Her hair was perfect. Her expression wasn't. "Lauren," she said, not a hug, not even a smile, just my name, like she was bracing for a storm. Mom. A pause thick as honey. Then, "Please don't ruin this for Sienna." My throat tightened. "I came because I was invited." "No, you came to make a point." I didn't argue. There was nothing to win. The hallway smelled like lemon polish and control. Every frame photo stared down from the walls, vacations, birthdays, Sienna's high school graduation. My face was absent from all of them. Dinner that night was a performance, not a meal. 15 chairs, 14 voices. I was seated at the edge of the table near the kitchen door where the heat brushed the back of my neck, and no one passed the bread. Sienna sat in the center like a spotlight followed her. Silk blouse, sparkling earrings laughed like glass. She was always good at being adored. Uncle Grant told a story about his time in Texas. Mom chimed in about a senator she met last fall. No one asked me a single thing. The man next to me furrowed his brow. "You look familiar," he said. "Afghanistan." 2012, I replied. Recognition hit. Lieutenant Mitchell, of course. Barbara jumped in quickly. "Lauren's doing security now." "Overseas work," Sienna added with a smirk. "She guards very important doors, I'm sure." The laughter at the table was sharp and short. I didn't flinch. I just looked at my knife. Too dull to cut steak, sharp enough to slice truth. When someone finally poured the wine, Sienna raised her glass. To family, she smiled, eyes gleaming. I raised mine too. To those of us who stayed, I said, quiet and clear. Her smile froze for just a second. The church was beautiful, too beautiful. White lilies lined the pews. Soft violin notes curled through the air like perfume. It smelled of wealth and good taste and curated perfection. And yet all I could see were the missing pieces. My name, my title, my seat. The printed chart at the entryway listed every guest plus one's third cousins, someone's college roommate. But not me. No Lauren Mitchell, no Lieutenant Jen. Just nothing. I stood there longer than I should have, watching strangers brush past me like I was invisible. Again, it wasn't a mistake. It was strategy at table 12. I found it eventually tucked behind a support pillar next to a side exit, out of view. As my mother said over breakfast that morning, we thought that was best for everyone's comfort, everyone but mine. The ceremony began with predictable choreography. The minister's voice was smooth, the lighting was soft, and then Sienna appeared at the back of the aisle, dressed in white, like nothing had ever touched her. Ethan stood at the altar, tall, composed expression, unreadable. He didn't glance at me until just before she reached him. And when he did, it was brief. No smile, no nod, just recognition, like a memory surfacing beneath glass. The vows were short, no interruptions, no drama, but the reception was another story. My place card said L. Mitchell, no rank, just initials. My napkin was a different shade than the others, a mistake, or another message people murmured around me, polite and distant. A woman leaned over at one point and asked, "Do you work with the venue security?" I nodded. Something like that. Then came the toasts. Barbara lifted her glass first. "To love and to loyalty, what this family treasures most." Sienna beamed. Ethan shifted in place. I stayed silent until Sienna stood with the microphone. She'd waited for this. One hand holding her champagne, the other gesturing with perfect grace. "Everyone just called out. I just want to thank you all for being here tonight. It means the world. Even my big sister came guarding doors around the world and still found time to crash a party laughter. Some polite, some pointed. And honestly, she continued turning slightly toward me. We don't say it enough. Thank you for keeping greatness safe, even if it means being silent." My hand tightened around my glass. More chuckles. Someone clinked a fork against a flute. "She's just a gate guard," Sienna added, her smile cutting sharper now. "Who'd want that job?" And then the laughter changed. It wasn't kind. It was cruel. I stood. Slowly. Ethan was already watching me, not with surprise, not even guilt, just waiting. Sienna's smile twitched. Oh, come on, she giggled. It's a joke. Lighten up, Lauren, you always. But Ethan moved. Deliberate, clean, military. He walked the length of the room like a man on orders. All conversation hushed. Glasses froze midair. He reached me one pace away, then saluted. Sharp, precise. Ma'am, he said, please forgive my wife. And to the room, this is Lieutenant General Lauren Mitchell, my commanding officer. The ballroom gasped. Sienna swayed. The mic slipped from her fingers and hit the floor with a hollow thud. I didn't blink. I didn't need to. The silence was deafening. The kind that doesn't just fill a room, it drowns it. No one moved. No one breathed. The orchestra had stopped mid-note. Even the chandeliers seemed frozen mid-sparkle. And Sienna, my sister, the bride, stood paralyzed in her perfect white dress, her lips parted like a line she couldn't finish. Ethan still stood beside me. Salute lowered now, but his spine straight as ever. He hadn't looked back. He didn't need to. Across the room, Barbara knocked over a champagne flute as she lurched to her feet. Lauren, she began, voice cracking. But that's all she managed. Just my name. That was new. And from the second row, someone else stood. Colonel Riley retired stiff in a navy blazer, raised his hand in a slow, deliberate salute. Then another, General Hart from West Point, face unreadable. A third woman I didn't know but could tell by posture and precision military career. One by one, 4 officers saluted in quiet solidarity. No words, no fanfare, just respect. Barbara's mouth opened again, but no sound came. The guests, hundreds of them, just watched. Watching me, watching him, watching the story they thought they knew, disassemble before their eyes. You could feel it, everyone recalibrating, everyone rewriting the past 10 minutes in their head, trying to figure out if they'd laughed, if they'd clapped, if they'd been complicit. I didn't move, I didn't speak. That was the power. That was the lesson. But the reckoning hadn't ended. Later, when the cake was half sliced and the wine had begun to loosen the collars of tuxedos, I found Sienna near the courtyard archway, her champagne untouched. Her eyes found mine wide and rimmed in something that wasn't just embarrassment, it was fear. But I didn't go to her. I went to the woman in the velvet dress standing by the bar. The event planner. Can I borrow the mic? I asked. She hesitated, then handed it over. I tapped the top once. A low thud echoed through the courtyard speakers. Conversations hushed again, cautious now. Some of you might not know me, I began, voice even calm. My name is Lieutenant General Lauren Mitchell. A few gasps. Some heads turned faster than others. I served in 6 countries. I led brigades. I've lost friends and saved strangers. And for the last 6 years, my name hasn't been spoken in this family, not with respect. I looked directly at Barbara. My silence wasn't absence, it was exile. Eyes shifted. The mood snapped tight again. But I came tonight not to shame, not to embarrass. I came to remember who I was with or without their permission. And with that, I handed the mic back. Ethan hadn't moved during my speech. But now he walked toward me slow, quiet. Thank you, he said softly, for what I asked, for reminding me who you are. I turned to leave the courtyard, and that's when Sienna finally spoke. Her voice was tight, but loud enough. You think this changes anything? I paused, then turned back only halfway. No, I said, it reveals everything. She found me the next morning. Same silk robe, same tight bun. But something in her face had cracked too many microfractures to hold the mass together. The hotel cafe was nearly empty. I was halfway through a bitter cup of black coffee when Sienna slid into the booth across from me. You know, she began, her sunglasses still on, even indoors. You ruined a moment that wasn't about you. I didn't look up. You made me a punchline. I just wrote the ending. She exhaled sharply, more dramatic than necessary. It was a joke, Lauren. You always did take things too. That's your problem, I cut in. You think cruelty wears a tuxedo and calls itself wit. She went quiet for a moment, then slowly reached into her clutch and pulled out a folded sheet of paper. I assume you know what this is, she said, sliding it toward me. I didn't touch it. I've seen it, I said. 3 times. It was the whistleblower tip, the one that nearly stalled my promotion to brigadier general. The one accusing me of falsifying my deployment reports. The one that mysteriously matched Sienna's writing style. You can't prove it was me, she said, but her voice cracked just slightly at the end. I already did, I said softly. Linguistic analysis phrasing structure. You used irregardless again. You always did love that word. Her smile collapsed. I was tired of being compared to you, she muttered. You were everything. You still are. So you sabotaged me. She flinched. I didn't think it would actually work. I leaned in just a little, my voice dropping. It nearly cost me my clearance. It did cost me a year of my life. She removed her sunglasses now. Her eyes were red. You're the hero, she whispered. Even when I try to hurt you, you come back stronger. No, I replied. I come back changed. That's not the same. For a moment, we just stared at each other, two grown women seated across from a war that had no explosions, only silence and damage dressed in pearls. You know what hurt the most? I asked. Sienna blinked. What? You made me question myself, my own memory, my own worth. And you did it with a smile. Her mouth opened, but no sound came out. I thought it was Mom, I continued. I thought she was the one who erased me, but it wasn't just her. She looked away. I waited. Let her sit in it. I'm sorry, she finally whispered. I believed her, but I didn't forgive her. Not yet. Some wounds needed to scar yet first. Before she left, she asked, So what now? You going back to Germany? I shook my head. No, I have work to do here. She looked confused. More military stuff, I stood. Something bigger, something quieter. But louder than all this, I left her sitting there surrounded by white tablecloths and unfinished apologies. The press came fast. They always do when shame wears a dress and truth shows up in uniform. It started with a blurry photo of me standing while Ethan saluted. Then came the whispers, the headlines, the commentary from people who had never held a weapon or a secret. I ignored most of it, but what I didn't ignore was the message from General Simmons. The Pentagon wants a meeting. By the time I entered the room, every seat was filled. Navy suits, stars, brass, and doubt. They looked at me like a puzzle piece that didn't fit any of their pre-drawn diagrams. I didn't flinch. I stood at the podium, cleared my throat, and said, I'm not here to defend myself. I'm here to defend the invisible. Slides flickered behind me, stats on retention loss, after internal family sabotage cases dismissed as personal drama. Officers sidelined after whisper campaigns launched by spouses, siblings, parents. This is the Resilience Protection Protocol, I said, tapping the folder. 3 tiers legal counsel, mental health services, and confidential career defense, activated automatically after an internal betrayal is verified. An admiral in the front row raised an eyebrow. Internal betrayal, that's a strong term. So is friendly fire, I replied, but we still track it. Somewhere in the back, someone murmured, damn. I clicked to the next slide. Suicide rates correlated with unsubstantiated reputation damage. You trained us to survive battle, but you left us defenseless in peace. A hush settled in, thick and deliberate. They didn't clap. Not here. But they listened. And when I stepped down, a woman in civilian dress caught me by the arm. My son left the Marines after his fiancée leaked his medical records. No one believed him. Your proposal would have saved him. I nodded. Then it's already worth it. Later that week, the foundation launched. A dingy community hall, 30 chairs, a crooked banner, but every seat filled, some in uniform, some not, all of them carrying the weight of a silence that had gone unacknowledged for far too long. I stood in front of them, not as a general, not as a sister, not even as a daughter, just a woman who had lived through the erasure and decided to leave a mark instead. You are not unstable, I told them. You are not dramatic. You're not too loud. You're witnesses. And we don't shame witnesses anymore. We train them to lead. Someone in the back stood. A young cadet, nervous but steady. I didn't know people that like you existed. I smiled. We do. We just got tired of asking for permission. I returned once. Not for them, for me. The house was smaller than I remembered. Still white, still manicured, but the pride had faded. The lawn wasn't edged as tightly, the shutters chipped at the corners. Time had finally caught up with the illusion. Barbara opened the door without her pearls. Her hair was pulled back in a loose knot, strands escaping at her temples. She looked tired, not from age, but from effort. Keeping up appearances is exhausting when truth walks upright. We didn't hug, we never did. She stepped aside and let me in. The scent hit me first. Not lemon polish this time, just dust. The kind that gathers when no one's been laughing in a house for too long. I wasn't sure you'd come, she said. I wasn't either. We sat in the front room. No tea, no pretense, just two chairs that hadn't moved since the last time I stormed out. She folded her hands. I didn't know how to protect you without hiding you. I looked at her, really looked. You weren't trying to protect me, you were protecting the version of me you could tolerate. Her eyes welled up, but no tears fell. I thought if we kept distance, people would forget that you'd still have a life, just not this one. I shook my head. You didn't erase me, Mom. You just made me unforgettable. Footsteps creaked upstairs. We both turned. Sienna stood halfway down the staircase, barefoot. Her eyes met mine, but she didn't speak. She didn't have to. Barbara watched as her voice a hush. She hasn't been the same since the wedding. She never had to be anything I said. I had to survive. She got to perform. Silence stretched between us, and in that pause I could hear everything they never said: regret, shame, fear, but no apology. You think this gets fixed now? I asked. That this moment ties the bow. Barbara looked down. Is there anything I can do? I stood. Yes, I said. When someone asks why I don't come home for Christmas, don't say it's complicated. Tell them you chose to forget me, and I chose to remember who I am. I walked to the door. She reached out, fingers trembling, maybe toward my hand, maybe toward the daughter she once had, but I didn't stop. I have a flat, I said. At the threshold, I turned once more. You taught me silence was safer, I said, but I was never meant to be safe. And then I left. No slam, no dramatics, just the sound of boots on wood and a house finally too tired to lie. I never went back after that day. Not because I was angry, though I was, not because I needed distance, though I did. I never returned because I had already reclaimed everything that mattered: my voice, my story, and the space I had once been forced to surrender. They still talk about the wedding. I've seen the clips, I've read the think pieces. Some paint me as a hero, others call me dramatic, vengeful, bitter. But none of them get it right, because this was never about revenge. It was about visibility. For every person who's been silenced at their own dinner table, for every daughter who had to earn her last name again and again, for every soldier betrayed by the people who were supposed to stand behind them, this story was for us. I used to think my strength came from rank or medals or salutes, but now I know better. My strength was forged in the silence they tried to trap me in and in my refusal to stay quiet. If you saw yourself in my story, if you've ever been mocked for speaking truth, if you've ever had to fight for your right to exist in your own family, you are not alone, and you don't need their permission to be whole. If this story moves something in you, share it. Subscribe. Leave a comment. Not for me, for the ones still trying to find the words to say, I matter. Because legacy isn't what they write about you after you're gone. It's what remains when you decide to speak loud enough to echo. Thank you for listening. And if no one said it to you in a while, I see you.